Hey Iso, you know where I put... What the hell is this?
Cool, huh? And this is one of the games that inspired Bloodline.
What the f...
I know. No, I was completely serious, because I stumbled upon Clive Barker's Undying while gathering informations for a planned video, where the authors repeatedly mentioned it in interviews, and actually I suddenly remembered that Civvie had made a video about it a while back, which, to be honest, I didn't connect until I saw the thumbnail for that video. The developers are, much like with the recent video about Medal of Honor, Dreamworks Interactive, except that they were acquired by Electronic Arts a year before release and thus renamed to the rather dry corporate name EA Los Angeles. I'd like to quickly explain what's the point of Should I Refund series. Probably all of you have already refounded a game on Steam, so I don't need to explain that. Well, Should You Refund is based on exactly that concept. After 2 hours of playing, I'll tell you my opinion and whether I would refund it or not. And if I like it enough, I might finish the whole thing and give a final rating at the end. Easy, right? First though, I have to complain that getting it to run at a higher resolution was quite a challenge. I have the GOG version, so I figured no problem, I'll just download the widescreen patch. The first one used DirectX 11 for rendering and crashed during the first cutscene. So I skipped the cutscene, crash. I try running it without it, no problem at all. Alright, so I try another one. Apparently all I need to do is set a higher resolution in the menu. Not a chance. Plus I find out it hasn't been updated in ages, instead the author switched to Undying Renewal. I knew that from the start, but it also includes a bunch of gameplay improvements that I really don't want, but thank God they couldn't be turned off. And I'll admit the subtitles are useful, they weren't in the original game, and 800 to 600 resolution since I couldn't set a higher one in the menu isn't exactly ideal either. Anyway, enough of my rambling, let's get to it.
2 hours later.
That constant jumping back to the journal was incredibly annoying, especially at the beginning, that's for sure. Because I hadn't even taken 2 steps before 2 pages of text, 4 more steps, another long text. Then thankfully it got better. But you are probably most interested in what I think, and I say yes. It's a little bit confused, yes, because that's exactly how I feel while playing, but still yes. And I intend to finish it because I'm actually curious to see where the whole thing goes from here, but I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm in the shoes of Patrick Galloway, an Irish World War I veteran, who 5 years later sails to meet his former commander Jeremiah Covenant to help him finally break the curse that has long plagued his family and reportedly killed his 4 siblings. I say reportedly because a few servants claim they recently saw them walking around the house, alive.
The great hall of paintings. There's the truth. Image becomes reality. He will rise again.
Wow. What a mansion!
Armed with a green artifact and an ordinary revolver which I'm holding in my left hand rather unusually, I enter the massive family estate, and it doesn't take long before I encounter the first enemy. Ano, Vana. Vidíte to sami. Úžasné. Vana. And holy moly, after that things kicked into higher gear rather quickly. I'm not saying I didn't help things a bit with the maximum nightmare difficulty, or that at first I didn't understand how to use my first spell, Ectoplasm, and that it's better than wasting bullets in the revolver. The biggest hurdle was this priest and his minions, who are ghosts. I managed to handle that, but it took me a while to realize there's literally an endless number of them, so it really wasn't worth wasting time on them. My gaming skills improved from that moment on though, because I finally understood how to upgrade spells and finally started playing like a proper gamer. So I had to be punished immediately by a new enemy that resembles the Hydralisks from StarCraft. I first encountered them in, I'd say, the afterlife, where I'm quite logically transported from Otto Kiesinger's room, who was invited here by Jeremiah's sister, and the main character isn't even a little bit thrilled because he was the very reason why Patrick once had to flee Ireland. Look, I'm trying to keep spoilers to a minimum, so this information will have to suffice. However, I've got the perfect new weapon for them, the Tibetan war cannon, which can insta-kill them, though I still haven't figured out why the hits are so insanely random. Sometimes on the first shot, sometimes not until the third, even though I've maxed out its power in every case. Maybe difficulty? I don't know, and I definitely don't like this enemy spam. Just before the time limit ran out, I found a couple of new spells. And took down a few new enemies, though it wouldn't be me if I didn't first mistake them for friends. And assume they would help me with everything from now on. At least I got a shotgun from them. So, would I recommend it? Absolutely. It caught my interest, even though the whole thing seems a bit slightly odd to me. These days it's a bit of hassle to get it running properly, but that's what the more tech-savvy fans are here for. They've already figured it out for us. For the very first time in the history of this series, I'm continuing on, and since I returned to the game after 2 weeks, my first task was to get used to the controls again, which I dare to say are a bit complicated given all the switching between spells, weapons and items, but I understand it probably couldn't have been designed much better. I arrive at the old monastery, and in the detailed diary of one of the monks, I learn how it all went wrong here when the monks found the magic site. I need that very thing to turn the whole situation around, so after acquiring a few keys and exploring the monastery ruins, I cast a teleport spell to the past to return to somewhere around the year 1231. I am starting to suspect that it was actually me who destroyed the monastery, but on the other hand, I'm finally fighting something other than immortal skeletons or werewolves. Poor monks, their sticks and crossbows are cute, but I quickly showed them the advantages of modern technology. FireTight's Culture Club. Do you really want to hurt me? Do you really want to make me cry? This depiction of the devil comes from the Czech chronicle Codex Gigas, also known as the Devil's Bible. It's the largest handwritten book in the world and was likely created in the early 13th century at the Podlažice monastery near Chrudim. The goal was to compile what could be called a sort of ultimate encyclopedia, that is to summarize all the knowledge of the time into a single book. The codex was gradually moved from Podlažice to Sedlec, then purchased by Břevnov and Broumov, until it was finally transported to Prague, where it became part of the Rudolf II's its collection. At the end of the 30 Years' War, it was captured by the Swedish army and taken to Stockholm. Despite repeated efforts by our country, the Swedes refused to return it. They merely loaned it for 6 months about 20 years ago for an exhibition at the Clementinum in Prague. On the other hand, I got completely lost in the damn monastery, and before I could find my way out, the constant glitches, getting stuck on everything, and the main character's ability to jump only 5 centimeters off the ground started to drive me crazy. But in the end I found that site after all, and when I lifted it from the altar...
This can't be good. I'm on fire! My skin! Father, shield me from harm.
And honestly, I've gotten my hands on one of my favorite weapons in the game. Right now it insta-kills practically everything I encounter, and it's even capable of restoring my health at the expense of mana. Not that I didn't learn how to use that feature at the end of the game, but that's gonna be our little secret. My mana is definitely taking a huge hit under that side's wave, but when I can do this... I don't really care that much. Lisbeth and I chased each other all over the place for a while until I touched her dead mother, which pissed her off so much it turned into a boss fight. And holy moly, that bitch has a crazy amount of health. I even started wondering if I was doing something wrong, because that just isn't possible.
What's this? My pets, to him I call you. Break his bones and claw his eyes clean.
Yeah! No, seriously, that was a great scene. My reward is a new spell called Haste, which lets me move faster and jump farther. What did you expect? I don't know. By the way, that skybox saw much better days 25 years ago. It looks absolutely terrible in 4K. Kind of like that one in Half-Life. But where to next? I really wouldn't have guessed that this blurry texture was supposed to be vines, and the developers obviously assumed I would remember how to navigate Jeremiah's house, since I'm supposed to meet the caretaker in front of the main entrance. However, the complex has been attacked by Ambrose's minions, the Tersanti clan, Arab fanatics who live only for war, because they know nothing but hatred. They are supposed to have some kind of hideout nearby in the form of the cave, and that's exactly where I'm heading next.
Kill you for your boots, Irishman. I see you in.
That side is just awesome. Finally, at the end, my first encounter with Ambrose, who immediately sent me to a pirate showers. With the help of a new spell, Rain of Skulls, I get out, take a few steps and suddenly find myself in front of the building's entrance. Is it just me, or am I missing something important here? But I'll get that boss fight anyway, because as soon as I walk up to Jeremiah and barely say hi, Ambrose jumps between us, cuts off Jeremiah's head and snatches my artifact, which somehow turns him into a mega boss. I was shooting like an idiot until I realized that at this exact moment I should be aiming for the artifact instead. Although after some quick loads it ended up in my hand on its own, but I assumed that was just a bug. Do you understand me now? If there's one thing that really fascinates me, it's the staff members who, despite all this chaos, calmly walk up to me and say, "You might find something in Jeremiah's room," which unfortunately kicked off the few minutes of trial and error. Find the right door for the key you found. In other words, I'm running back and forth and have to literally barge through every door to see if it's the right one. So it took a while before I got back to Oneiros to kick Otto in his mutated/occult ass.
One eternity later.
And I also stumbled upon an interesting bug/feature during that. You can shoot through mirrors. Apparently there's another room on the other side and someone didn't really think something through. The stylistic design of Oneiros is without question the best thing I can say about this section, because I didn't really enjoy it. It's just a pretty random collection of ruins connected by teleports where I collect God knows what just to move somewhere else. Don't tell me this doesn't remind you of Zen from Half-Life.
I kid, it's not as bad as Zen. It's a bit long, but it has some cool set pieces.
Thank you!
They also taught me how to fly halfway through because Phoenix, you know. Funnily enough, this tower, along with these annoying warlocks, was my biggest problem, because I took down Otto himself with my eyes closed, especially considering that I'm playing on the highest difficulty.
Ah, Otto, the future could have been so different.
But it was still miles away from that fun called running around the mansion looking for doors I can now open. That could definitely have been handled a million times better. And when I finally crawled my way into Aaron's secret studio and caught him admiring my giant portrait.
A knot, a detail in canvas. Never had I been far enough away to grasp its entirety.
Only to immediately transform it into a nightmare. I mean boss fight. With just a few brush strokes. Yeah, he really pissed me off and apparently sealed the deal that I would be more than happy to have this over with. Aaron, dude, I'm really sick of you. Could you please just finally go away? Especially since this is the first time my game crashed. The end is obviously approaching, which means the last member of the family, Bethany, and apparently they've moved me back to Oneiros, although a slightly stranger version that I've renamed as Brazil. And those local enemies, let's say orcs, are unbelievably total bullshit with tons of health, and if I wasn't having fun before, definitely not now, especially since they can insta-kill me with a stupid crossbow of theirs, which as a cute bonus shoots lightning from the sky when it hits.
2 hours later.
Another new weapon is the Phoenix Egg, which could be defined as a guided rocket launcher. I practically didn't use it. At the end of this tedious bullshit, including the invisible Amazons, there's finally Bethany, the final boss, who bugged out after a few attempts and one more crash. I didn't complain. You'd think that's the end, but oh no, it's actually all Jeremiah's fault, who had my entire journey figured out in advance and planned how I'd help him free the devil or God knows what. Blah blah blah.
You know what, Jeremiah? You talk too much.
You talk too much. You never shut up. I said you talk too much. Oh boy, you never shut up.
I assume the real final boss is supposed to look different, because I don't think it was the developer's plan to place the player in the middle of a small island where the boss can't hit him, even though he's obviously trying very hard and just keeps shooting at his mouth. I'm gonna say mouth. Then the head, and it just goes round and round like that without any change, while you just wait for him to round out of health. The only problem at the start were those tentacles by the shore, especially since I didn't have the slightest clue at first what was actually killing me.
Where am I? Yo, it can't be. I'm not done with you yet.
Paradoxically, I'd go so far as to say that those first 2 hours are the best Undying has to offer. Everything is still shrouded in mystery and its own way. You only have a few spells, even fewer weapons, and the selection wheel subtly teases you with "look what else is waiting for you." However, in terms of gameplay, the game inevitably starts to go downhill, and by the time you reach the very end, you are kind of fed up with it, or at least that's how I felt. But despite that, I wouldn't change my recommendation. It's sufficiently interesting FPS with plenty of interesting enemies, spiced up with magic and the occult, so it might catch your interest. That is, except for a tedious running around the Covenant's family mansion. I'd rather replace that with another level.